they find out about you. But you have to meet them first, and you have to talk to them. Otherwise, the other things aren't worth it. You know, it's not High School Musical. You gotta meet the people and talk to them.
Yeah, particularly on the local level elections, I think that's definitely true, because you still, I mean, it's possible to meet a lot of people, possible to get a certain percentage of people. You go to the train station every day, you'll meet a lot of people. You go to the school functions and so on. And local elections, of course, as you go higher up, you just don't have the time to do that.
But you know, Sue Kelly and George, Sue Kelly mostly, she would walk around Yorktown. She would walk around Somers. She would go up to Dutchess County. I mean, she was a U.S. Congresswoman. So these Greg Paul, the guy, he's nonstop. This kid, he's constantly. I just had a guy that I played softball with. He had a cousin in Staten Island during Hurricane Sandy. He went out to Staten Island and was bringing generator stuff. And the guy goes, "Well, couldn't he stay any longer?" I said, "Well, he's probably delivering things. He was working. I mean, it's not like a." You know, I've walked with Greg, let's say, in a parade, a St. Patrick's Day parade in Mount Kisco one time, and other politicians, I overheard them saying they were making fun of Greg because he was going into the crowd. He was talking to people. You know, these other guys are marching. That doesn't work. You know, people want to touch their. It's not an American Idol show. This is, you got to go out and talk to these people and shake their hands, and they look you straight in the eye and see if you're honest or not. This is reality. You know, TV only works to an extent. Facebook only works to an extent. And you know, I don't want any more friends. You know, I want to be an individual where you could come to for the honest answer. Not that I'm going to berate you, belittle you, but you know, I want to be the person that you're going to give you the honest facts. That I'm not a salesman. I never was a salesman. I was at the point of execution. Your word was your bond. And now I'm actually at the division I worked with. I worked for a division of Goldman Sachs. I'm an alumni of Goldman Sachs, and the guys I will work with, there are only a few guys who are invited into this, and I was one of them. And in fact, on the floor, I was like, I've only known one other guy, and he was an upstairs guy that was in my division. So your reputation, your honesty has a big thing to do with who you are and what you want to do in this political arena.
Right. Certainly, that's so. You did meet a lot of people now.
I meet a lot of people. We were talking before at I went to Engelbrook Sunday. Saturday, I went to the town, the fair at the shopping center. The week before that, I was in Chappaqua. You know, I go to post office. It's talking to people. We also talked about earlier that, you know, some people are not comfortable walking up to the door, especially where we live. You know, it's suspect to somebody coming to your door. I mean, I got 4 dogs, and the dogs go crazy, you know. So you really, you know, it's tough to do. Maybe in the past, years ago, that would be acceptable. I mean, that's a good example of where we are today. I try to explain to people that when I was growing up, my father had trust in me, our neighbors, our police department, our government, that you let your kid out. That ran away. Nowadays, I bought my daughter a red sports car. She was 16 years old. She's driving a sports car. I said, "Take it easy." She goes, "Dad, don't worry about it. All the kids are inside playing video games. You know, none of the kids are out." I said, "You got a red sports car. You got to be careful. You know, you got a bullseye on your back." People are not letting the kids out. You know, it's all controlled sports. We got to have confidence in our government, our neighbors, and people in general, and ourselves, and our kids. We got to make sure we're comfortable. That means that businesses are comfortable doing business.
Certainly, I agree with you that there's a social changes, you know, for the last few decades, and it's not changed for the better. That's the problem.
No, it isn't. And you know, I would like to see that we have confidence in our neighbors, our government. You know, corporations, do they really have a lot of confidence? And I mean, that's our tax base. You know, Everybody loves to hear about a small business. We all like that, but we need anchor stores too. We need anchor businesses so the small business can thrive and then become maybe an anchor store. So we need to bring this, we have the Tappan Zee Bridge. I grew up in Sleepy Hollow, North Tarrytown, and my father had a boat. We were on the Hudson all the time. Now, this is another thing of dysfunction. A lot of people went to jail for building that bridge. Did you know that? Because they use inferior products. That's why it's falling down. Versus the Brooklyn Bridge was there right after the second Civil War. And we've been, you're paying tolls on that bridge since 1956. What happened to the money? You should have maintained it. They should have, if it was inferior products, they should have, with the tolls on it, they should have made it right so they don't have to replace it today. And Rob Astorino, he wants mass transit on it. I love trains. I have 5 Lionel train sets. And if you look at Warren Buffett, John Thain used to run the stock exchange. He's with CIT Group. It's not Citi, it's CIT Group. And his biggest product that he's financing is railroad cars. Obviously, and Warren Buffett's one of his biggest ventures is I think Canadian Rail or something. Northern. Okay. So the rail industry is going to come back. So you want a train from the New Jersey Transit to White Plains to you want that because in the future the trains will be more of a conveyor belt versus a mass transit. So we need to go to the next level of doing things that are our best interest for the future.
It's somehow now our government, from federal down, there's very little real planning.
Well, one of the problems
planning now is becoming sort of a complaining rather than planning.
Yeah. Well,
you go to a planning meeting in a town, what do you hear?
Yeah,
right. Everybody's just making.
Well, they want
complaints.
attention. How many people want attention? Versus it's because we have such a media world. They want to be, recognized. This is not unique to the United States. Governments around the world are dysfunctional now. They're too big. They're too restrictive. France is a good example. They're taxing people at 75%. I have a sister who lives in France, and they're not happy with it. That money that the government takes the money out of the imagination of the American people how to solve a problem. You got to give, and I said before, we're in a boom and a bust. We're in a bust cycle right now. To get ourselves out of this bust cycle, you have to have more money in the hand of consumers so they can let their imagination buy more things. So Jack Kennedy said a lower tax rate makes more tax revenues. If you're an athlete, if you're in a slump, you go back to the fundamentals, figure out what you're doing wrong. What we're doing wrong, we're not even going back to the fundamentals. We have these dreamy plans, and we're not doing the fundamentals. We got to go back to the fundamentals and why we got to this place and why we want to stay to this place. And these are what people, we have these elected officials that are nice people. They want to help everybody. But they're not being genuine with them because you got to say no to people. You got to say we can't afford that. How are we going to afford that? Where we're going to get the money from? We got to be adults about this. We're not. We're being a dysfunctional.
Empty promises.
Empty promises you can't fulfill. But the problem is that government takes out the debt to pay for these promises, and then the debt comes due, we can't afford it, and then you have to raise taxes. We're chasing the dogs, chasing the tail.
Yeah, that's why philosophical differences cannot be sort of resolved in our country. Somehow, you see how the Congress is deadlocked in things. I think when people blame, say, Republicans. Doing this
you have to have a foundation. Obamacare, if it's so good, why does Congress wants an exemption? If Obamacare is so good, why are these companies lining up for exemptions? Health insurance is too expensive. We have to lower the cost of expense. Government should be looking at what's the obstacle. Is it government is the obstacle for our health care insurance? We all hear that, oh, we're going to get free health. There's no such thing as a free lunch. You know how that came about, right? A free lunch. A free lunch is back in like the turn of the 20th century. A bar would have free lunch and give you all these salty things, and then you had a drink.
Yeah.
So there was no there's no such thing as a free lunch. And the more free we try to make it, the more expensive it's going to be for us.
Yeah.
We have to be adults about this. And my opponent, he's for gun control. I'm for the Second Amendment. I don't own a gun. I have no issue, no reason to own a gun. But if people want to have that, that should be their privilege. He's for open borders. I'm an Irish Catholic. My family comes from Ireland. In Ireland, every 6 to 8 minutes, an Irishman leaves their country to find work somewhere else. They go to, the visas are better in the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia.
Everywhere, yeah.
Everywhere. So we need to, fences make good neighbors. You need to have a responsible immigration policy that we need to. He wants open borders. You don't do it. There's too much of a burden on everybody else. The seniors are the most abused people in our society today with the cost of their living. I was talking to a man, Mr. Kelly, the other day, and he was referencing how, he can live in North Carolina. He has a friend who's a house similar to him. He pays $10,000 in taxes. The houses in Carolina are $1,400 a year. He can't afford this. I mean, and he has a good pension, and he still can't afford it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my opponent's a nice guy. Personality, he'll give you a shirt off his back.
Yeah, certainly, I was just talking about this. The planning part is missing. I mean, we can't even get our, budget sort of approved. I mean, in that process, there ought to be some planning ahead. We know we have problems ahead, and somehow there's no energy spent towards solving those
Well,
problems.
there's too many variables now.
Well, just
in
kick
Washington,
the can down the road. That's the whole.
That's the resolve. They want to just postpone it till the inevitable. I mean, this is not unique to the United States. This is a worldwide problem. This economic demise actually started in Europe, and we the Americans get blamed for this all the time. Another case in point is the Royal Bank of Scotland. They were 1.2 times the gross domestic product of their country. Their debt was 1.2 times their gross domestic. That's one bank.
Yeah.
So so where was the government watching to make sure that they didn't go into such debt?
Yeah.
So they gave out. It was free money.
Yeah.
This is not unique. This is I mean, one of the Scandinavian countries, they were doing things like this. This is a worldwide thing. These government has gotten too big. There's too much power. There's too much out of control. We got to give it back to the people, and they're going to make their. They can either. Nobody wants to fail. I mean, these kids, they play soccer. Everybody gets a trophy, win or lose. I mean, it doesn't work. You're disadvantaging the good athlete. You disadvantage the
fairness, the fundamental part.
Yeah, well, the kid who isn't as good, still gets the trophy. If he realizes he's not that good, maybe go into another thing, and then he excels there. I mean, a jock is not always good. A jock in everything, good in everything. He's maybe good in one sport. He's not going to be good in academics. He's not going to be good in some other sport, or communicating with people. We fail. When Einstein, Edison say, I made the light bulb once, but I learned how to make it. Not to make it 1,000 times or something, right? So we need failure to make progress.
Yeah, certainly. I think we really lost the spirit of the competition part. I think this is
Yeah, it's a sad.
That's why we're losing in the sort of.
Well, we're not. I mean, we are losing. Well, I think the whole standard, the world standards, are losing because government is trying to be too much Big Brother or too much motherly or something. We need to fail, but government needs to be responsible. Like, we shouldn't be social engineering when our bridges are falling. We shouldn't, there was a time, again, I tell you, I'm Irish Catholic. When I lived in the neighborhood I lived in, my parents would get calls. We were my parents and my family was originally from the Bronx. They would get calls saying, go back to the Bronx. They would call us Bigs, Bronx Irish Catholic. And they would call every night in the middle of the night. Some drunk, some idiot would do it. I mean, these are what happens in life. It doesn't make it right, but this is. But did it make? Did I, have all this drama? Because no, it happened. I dealt with it, and I had to go forward. I didn't hold a grudge. But you live. This is part of life. You got to deal with this.
Yeah. In other words, we have to accept reality, and we can't sort of assuming we are in a utopia society. You might want to improve towards that direction, but you can't assume that today.
Well, one of the things that's scary is that these kids are cyberbullied. There's something that my generation doesn't understand about that.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. How it got to this level and what's going on with it. I'll be honest with you. This is a
new phenomenon.
Yes, that I don't know how to resolve that. That would be someone in a higher pay grade would have to explain that to me and how to resolve it. Janine Pirro, I think she was the one to try to do something about it. Yes, maybe it's more of a family structure we need. There are a lot of issues going on with those kind of stuff.
Well, it's many things. The spiritual part of our education system sort of dispar the religion.
Yeah.
Which in a way, for whatever reason, there may be one little reason is good. You are casting out thousands of other good things. I mean, that's one part I feel that it's very strange. Why should a school that has just because it's a public school you cannot have religion?
Well, I'm a 9/11 victim, and one of my childhood friends growing up was from Saudi Arabia. His father was something to do with the ambassador of Saudi Arabia, and I was explaining this to my daughter. She goes to Pace now, which is a great school, and she's now first time meeting a Muslim girl, and she's getting friendly with this Muslim girl. I said, there's all different types of this Sunni, Shiites, Kurds. There's all these different sects, though we don't understand it. And I was explaining to her that I was a real little boy. My friend was Terry. He lived down the street. Their family's from Saudi Arabia. He had something to do with the ambassador. And the first time I saw a woman in a burqa, and I was thinking, Terry, it's not Halloween. What are they doing? You're a kid. You don't know. You're 5 years old or something. But that was a long walk. That's someone that parents might trust me. And we got along. And there was a Jewish guy on the other side. We were friends with. We had no problem. We just wanted to be. We were boys. We just wanted to have fun. There was no line there.
I think by accentuating these type of things, often you actually made it worse.
Yeah. Oh,
right? Yeah. It's like you keep on painting, and the darker the contrast is being built.
You accept it, right? And then he explained to me what happened. And he went over it later on in life. You went over it, and the grandmother or somebody was there, and you just respect. And then my Jewish friends, you just didn't. So you had a whole different. But yeah, you're 100% right. They keep bringing these lines in front of us
to make it a sharp contrast.
Yeah, and you're like
imprinted it in your head.
And then I grew up with all these different people. I mean, I grew up in this great spectrum of all UN people to slums to Peter Rockefeller sat behind me in my Miss Moscow algebra class. I mean, you had I was friends with the guys from the ghetto and played football with them, and I went so it's a spectrum. This is America. This is what you can do. But you're right. We're painting these lines that are restricting us.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to your election again. you, of course, you are endorsed by Republicans.
Yeah,
right?
Rob Estorino's endorsed me, Greg Ball's
And,
endorsed me, and Republican.
certainly by talking to you, I know you're very conservative, and you have, you know.
I don't think it's conservative is the accurate word. I think it's more realistic. It's not that I don't like labels because they restrict you.
Yeah, that's certainly true. Yeah.
And you have to make the right decision. An elected official needs to make the right, mature decision, and we're not doing that. We talked about Washington and Albany. You got to get somebody who's going to make the right decision and show how it's thinking. I went to the Engelbrook and I was telling this lady, I said, "Oh, I see this as an asset. This place. Other people are going to see it as a liability. I want to make sure this is an asset." She said, "Well, everything is like is funded by grants, not by government, but by private individuals. Private individuals work on this place. It's an asset because, the community goes there and works on it. It's not, Westchester County helped buy it, but they also, the community is self-sufficient in doing that. This is important. It's a social thing. It's bringing back to nature. This is why we live in northern Westchester, because we like the great outdoors. We're in the city of Peekskill. I got guys that are music guys, playing bands and stuff. This city, I grew up in Tarrytown. We came up here. This is a cool town. The architecture is really nice. I have a sister who lives in Mill Valley, California. She used to live in San Francisco, and it's this could be the San Francisco or the Greenwich Village of Westchester, northern Westchester.
These guys have come a long way up.
Yeah, this could be a really cool, but you have to be able to afford these things. You have to be able to make sure there's no trouble where people feel threatened to come here. This is a unique town. It's a cool place, but we got to go to, we got to bring Westchester back to a level where you have these assets and they are not liabilities; they're assets, and people want to live here.
So on the election day, when the ballot is burning, how many lines?
I just had the Republican line, the conservative line. I didn't get my petitions to 3 days before the due date. The people that were supposed to get me signatures, they really didn't. The one guy got it from outside my district. This is the games that some politicians play. The head of the Conservative Party in Yorktown is running on the Democratic ticket, and he's running with my opponent. So, unfortunately, I only have the Republican line. Last time I did this 4 years ago, I had 44%, and which was very good. I had no backing, but I did it all on my own. I went out and talked to people. So, this is, the point is you have to get out and get.
So your message is very important, Don. You really have to let people know.
And people connect with me when I talk to them. I make eye contact. I tell them the truth. I tell them how things are. I tell them what is wrong and how to fix it. These are the issues we need to do.
Right. Well, we probably running out of time soon. Let's sort of focus a little more on the issues part and anything that you really want to, assuming now the audience are now voters are waiting,
the biggest issue in Westchester County is affordable housing. That'll change the whole definition of Westchester County. In fact, I looked on the Westchester County website, and they still the goalposts are being moved around by Washington about what has to be done. It's an open-ended. Okay. Number two, there's a tax that Westchester County residents pay, home heating oil, 3%. That we're the only county that does that in New York State. That's disadvantaged our seniors and our most families. That I want to repeal. A third thing is that we have to make Westchester business friendly. The companies want to either stay here, or they want big anchor stores want to come here so small business can grow. You can't have one without the other. So you have to have it where we're competitive in our tax bases with other states, other countries, and if they're going to come here and they're going to charge them a premium, they're getting the bang for the buck, and they can afford. They like the workforce here. They like the tax rates. They like the standard of living. They like what they got in Westchester County. You don't pay a premium that's 10 times the going rate, you pay maybe a premium a little bit above or at the level, and you get your bang for your buck. We need to bring we need jobs. You can't have economic expansion unless you have the money back in the consumer's hands, and that a big issue is the Thames Bridge. That could be the gateway to New York State. Michael Bloomberg said New York City could become the next Detroit. We have to make sure that, one, that we're protected against that worst case scenario. And we have to do these so, the city people are not dumping on Westchester.
Very good. So I think we are going to be really running out of time.
All right.
So give your elevator speech to the audience. Look into the camera. Say 30 seconds, then we'll probably have to close off.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me on tonight, and thank you everyone for listening and giving you an opportunity to know who I am. And I hope you would come out and vote for me. I only have the one line. There's games in politics, and we see those games in Washington. They can be played in Westchester. So please come out and vote and support me. I'm out to support you in Westchester County government. We need a responsible, respectful, improving government, not this what we have. I mean, I can't say anything more. We need a better government in all shapes. We stand up to Washington, we stand up to Albany, we can improve this, and somebody's got to stand up to these guys. I'm not going to be a career politician. I'm not a salesman. I want to do things that have to be done.
Very good.
Please.
Good.
All right, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and good luck to you. And I think every time in the election season, this program actually probably gets more viewers.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I hope I connected with people.
Regularly, we have game show and so on. It's for kids, for family, but I think these kind of educational, political
Well, we need the kids.
things
The kids need to be educated about politics.
Right. So, welcome to this show, and we'll have another interview soon. Are we on? Still on?